600 BC, 3295 AM. This is the approximate date for when Solon of Athens visited Egypt and learned from the priests about the history of the world and the sciences. Solon was a moralist, a teacher, a lawgiver, and a philosopher who revised the laws of Athens to bring about more equity between the aristocracy and the common folk. The Egyptians told Solon that the civilization of Atlantis sunk 9,000 years prior, but this was exaggerated by a factor of 10. The actual disaster was trans-Mediterranean and occurred 900 years prior at about 1500 BC, 1447 BC exactly. 597 BC, 3298 AM. Nebuchadnezzar II of Babylon again invades Judah and sacks Jerusalem. In his 8th year of reign, biblical record counting from 605 BC. King Jehoiakim is executed and Nebuchadnezzar II appoints his son, Jeconiah, to take his father's throne. This is the second overturning of the throne of Judah as prophesied by Ezekiel. This was 2484 days, 414 times 6, after the 603 BC destruction of Jerusalem. The prophet Ezekiel is carried away into captivity in Babylon, where he continues his ministry. 3 months after appointing Jeconiah as king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar II imprisons him and takes him to Babylon, where he would remain for 37 years. Babylonians take the temple artifacts and the ancient tabernacle relics, the utensils and hardware. 1,000 golden cups, 29 silver censers, 1,000 silver cups, 30 golden vials, 24 10 silver vials, and 1,000 other vessels. This was 330 years, 3960 months, is 792 times 5, after the Egyptians sacked the temple in 927 BC. Nebuchadnezzar II lays siege to New Tyre off the coast. The biblical prophets declare that a king of Babylon will destroy Tyre for her pride, but this is not a reference to Nebuchadnezzar II, who after 13 years of siege in 584 BC gives up. The year Nebuchadnezzar II gave up the siege began a 252-year countdown to 332 BC, when Alexander of Macedon, now king of Babylon, besieged and destroyed Tyre. 1. 2 Kings. 2. Ezekiel. 4. Esdras. 596 BC, 3299 AM. Kingdom of Media gains supremacy over the Persians. The two nations have close relations. Among the Medes are the warlike Sacs. These people were known widely by their patronymic name of Isaac. Quote, "In Isaac shall thy seed be called," unquote. The Sacs of Isaac Ishak were very populous throughout the former Assyrian territories, the main host having settled among the Medes. A large host of these people departed, migrating through the Caucasus and into Russia, where they became known as the Scythians, a Latin term for the Greek word skuthai, which was used to describe the Sac Geloth or, quote, prisoners of Sac, unquote. They are called Saki in the Persian Zendavesta, and they founded Sakland south of the Caucasus Mountains, and on the Jakartes River they built Samarkand or New Samaria, capital of Israel. Ptolemy related that a people from Media called the Saxones or Saki were later known as Scythians. Aeschylus wrote that the Sacae were noted for good laws and were considered a righteous people. Albinus Alcuin, notably the first Anglo-Saxon scholar, wrote that the European Saxons were descended from the Sacae of Asia. Pliny wrote that the Sacae were the most prominent people of Scythia, a people who settled in Armenia. Diodorus Siculus related that the Scythians were originally insignificant and few, but had grown into a formidable host and powerful. The learned Herodotus conferred with some Scythians and found them to be very intelligent and civilized. The Greek traveller was told by them that their race dated back 1,000 years prior to the invasion of Darius in 515 BC. Interestingly, 1,000 years earlier was 1515 BC, when the Israelites were multiplying in Egypt, becoming a mighty people. Herodotus referred to these people as royal Scythians, a people different from the other nomadic tribes, also in antiquity referred to as Scythians. He wrote that among the Scythians were the Getae, wanderers, a people believing in immortality, who went after death to Zalmoxis, which means God of Moses. The Getae lived in Moesia, or land of Moses. In this year a terrible plague afflicted Athens. Epimenides is credited with purging the city of the malady. 1. Genesis. 2. Tracing our ancestors. 595 BC, 3300 AM. In the 12th year, 144 months of the captivity of Judah from 607 BC, the prophet Ezekiel foretold that Egypt would fall to Babylon, and that God would, quote, cover the heavens and make the stars thereof dark. I will cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon shall not give her light, unquote. This was a prophecy of planet Phoenix, which would darken the sun in 583 BC, 2 years after the reign of Judah. Ezekiel also foretold that the city of Tyre would fall, 2 years after the ruin of Judah. Ezekiel also foretold that the city of Tyre would fall, a feat believed impossible because it was an island protected by sheer cliff walls, virtually impregnable. He said that Tyre would fall to the king of Babylon, and because at that time Nebuchadnezzar too was besieging New Tyre, it was thought to refer to him, but instead the prophecy would meet fulfillment under Alexander of Macedon. Alexander would become king of Babylon and even dine and die in the famous palace of Nebuchadnezzar II. Ezekiel prophesied that in the resurrection the people of Judah and the Israelites would be reunited and become one people. 1. Ezekiel. 593 BC, 3302 AM. The reforms initiated by Draco, from which the term draconian derives, almost resulted in civil war in Athens. The statesman Solon arbitrates a settlement between the common people and aristocracy. He drafted and implemented legal reforms, planting the seeds that would later emerge as republics and democracies. This was 28 years after Draco instituted his stringent laws. This was 776 years after the Israelites took to ships and sailed to the Aegean and Peloponnesian ports in 1369 BC. 776 being a number repeatedly found in timelines involving Israel and Greek themes. 589 BC, 3306 AM. Ancient Earth-killer comet group passes through the inner solar system.